This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Hello, Jonah.
What's up? Good to be back.
I'm doing this new thing. Yeah, exactly, dude.
Good
Returning
to be
guest,
back.
Jonah. So, dude, let's talk about why we're doing this, right? So, Jonah was at one of the best YouTube channels for kids. He has broken off. We have partnered up, and we're starting Scallywag Media.
Scallywag Media, baby.
Tell us about it, dude.
Yeah, so basically, I came from Space Station Honduras, A for Adley, and over there we were averaging about 500 million views a month, and on YouTube only, and then a lot more than that on other social platforms. And basically, what I wanted to do is help people get and build something, their own brands, and help build something bigger than what they are in each of their spaces. So I kind of broke away and decided to start Scallywag Media, where I'm going to be helping, with your help, we're going to be helping brands and individuals blow up their own personal brands outside of their one niche that they're doing, how to leverage what they're doing to build it into something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's me, you, and Nick Russo. Mm-hmm. Our boy Nick.
Our boy Nick.
He had a third-degree burn from playing Roman candles, and he was nervous about it.
Yeah, he wasn't too happy about that.
He's doing well now.
Yeah, we recently got back from Lake Powell,
Yeah.
and Nick, I guess obviously when you're in Powell, you do Roman candle wars. So
I guess.
Well,
Took me 41 years to do them, but yeah.
Yep. And when you do Roman candle wars, you play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and Nick won a third-degree burn.
Yeah.
So.
Me too, actually.
Yeah.
I just showed Jonah. I have a third-degree burn. I think I'm down to a second though. I don't know how this actually works, but I got
Slowly
shot
goes down.
in between the legs. It's a upper inside of the thigh wound.
Keep it
I
off
didn't even realize I
camera.
had it till like 2 days ago, which sounds stupid. I don't know if it's like delayed or what, but like, I mean, I washed, so it's not like, I don't know, but shit, yesterday, man. Well, it's probably because it's scabbed over now. And it like keeps on pulling my underwear away. So like when I turn around, it just like rips the scab off every time. And I'm like, this hurts.
Gross.
Yeah. It's also gross. Sorry, ladies.
Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint.
We'll keep that off camera though.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're chilling.
So
Everyone will be fine. Mark, today we're doing something different. Kind of tell the people what we're doing.
So we are this episode is going to be chopped up into a bunch of little ones for the good content that we come out with. So we make little shorts. And Jonah's interviewing me. And so it's going to be a little bit more on what I think of the world more than the guest thinks, even though I normally say whatever I think during the episode. So it makes this thing fun. But yeah.
We're giving the people what they want.
Yeah. And so, and I've done, gosh, what am I at? I think I've recorded about 117 of these, 118 of these, something like that. And so I kind of feel now like I've kind of got my feet wet. You know, I feel like the podcast is evolving and, you know, hopefully each episode is getting a little bit better. But yeah, so it's time to start marketing the crap out of this thing.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not sure if I told you this, but I'm going to hit 450 of these things. I'm not stopping until I do that. And so, because I think that's given it the best, longest runway that I can. You know, take basically 4.5 years to do that. I might speed it up a little bit more, but
even more. I mean, you do a lot. How many do you do a week?
2. So, yeah.
Do you release 2 a week or do you make 2 a week?
Oh, I release 2 a week. So
Yeah.
I normally record 3. I did 4. This will be funny too, right? So I was doing 4 because I come down here and I just gotta knock them all out, right? Because I can't come down here every day and do 1 and kind of float around and do whatever, right? Until, you know, maybe we have our studio up and running, I'll maybe float a little bit more. But yeah, there was one time in the summer, or just starting in the winter. If you look in this room, if you're watching this on video, there's a fire behind me. So this room gets cold. So, and I generally don't eat because I just do these things back to back to back to back. And so I did, in my 4th one, I actually fell asleep. And so, dude, it was wild. I'm sitting there and I'm like, it was very interesting what the person was saying, right? And I was kind of like paying attention. I'm like, oh, dude, I am so tired. I'm like, I need to take a nap after this. Next thing you know, I'm just doing this. And I like wake up. Dude, actually, I woke up like this. And I looked over at the guy and he was still talking. I'm like, I don't know if I was asleep for 2 seconds or 30 seconds or holy crap. He never said a word to me. And I'm pretty sure he thought I was just looking at my phone. Right. And I'm like, okay, we're just gonna let that one slide. But I just think it's funny because people are like, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, one time I fell asleep. Like, I'm not really the greatest host of all time. So
good guess though. Notices you fall asleep, just gonna keep on rambling.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like
blah, 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 blah.
slowly start saying, Mark.
Yeah.
Right, Mark? And then have your head pop up.
Like, oh yeah.
Well, dude, let's get into it because, again, I've been able to get to know you. I haven't known you that long in the whole grand scheme of things, but as I've known you, I feel like every single time we hang out, I get more impressed about who you are and what you've done and what you've been able to accomplish in every aspect of your life. And I think I guess I know I'm not the only one that wants to know more about it, how you got here, how you got to believe the things that you believe, and why you believe them.
Yeah.
So let's get it.
I love that, dude. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. I know you didn't really ask me a question there, but I think something I'd like to really point out to people is I feel like I'm very in line with what I believe, right? But to get there, I've had to be coachable and I pivot. So what I say to people, like my wife would be like, oh, dude, when you argue with people, like you are just unrelenting, like you won't give up. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I've thought about these things. I've come to my conclusion. I said, but honey, one thing with me, if you bring me new evidence that changes what I think, boom, I'll pivot in a second, And I try and live that, I try and live where it's like, no, I'll argue with you and argue my point. But if you give me something that changes that, then I'll just automatically change. So.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like that's what most people should do, right? Where it's like,
well, I think so, but yeah,
I feel like,
sort of tell most people what to do.
Yeah, true. But I feel like that's just being dumb enough to know that you're not as smart as everyone else.
Well, and I also think it's important, right, to not always feel like you're the smartest person in the room. I think you should be a smart person and then exist in the present with people. But if I start talking to someone, I realize how, like, actually my next guest that's coming on, his name's CJ, right? He's an antiques dealer, right? And there's a lot of knowledge that comes with that. There's a lot of knowledge of history and like really placing things in different time periods. Like he brought me a Book of Mormon, came to my office a couple of weeks ago. It's an original print. It's in 1830, right? Outside of being a religious text, it's one of the most top 10 important books in American history, right? Like the Mormon movement from New York and Vermont all the way out here to Utah and the settlement and the expansion of the West, like it goes with that time period, right? It's a super important book. And so, I think a lot of people know I used to be LDS and not anymore, but like even holding that book is so cool. And I remember actually saying to people, I'm like, I dreamt about owning one of these when I was on my mission, like in my LDS Mormon mission. But going back to my point, like with CJ, like when you talk to him, like the wealth of knowledge he has about that particular book and then the time period and the history all the way around it, I wouldn't even pretend that I'm the expert. And so I just love hearing what he has to say. And then I just internalize that and, I agree with what I agree with and I don't agree with what I don't agree with and just hopefully I get smarter just by interacting.
Yeah, it's awesome. So let me ask you this. Where did you start? Like, where would you say, when did it change for you to where you realize, like, I can make, like, knowing how expensive that Book of Mormon is, right? In my head, I'm like, I would have never thought that. I didn't come from a place where I'd be like, oh, I'm going to own this very expensive book. And just because I don't know, that's how I grew up. So for you, where did you start when you started thinking about money specifically? Where did you start to realize that, like, you could earn the amount of money to be able to buy a book like that or to be able to do the things you want? Like, when did that mindset change?
Ooh, honestly, it's probably when I was 8 years old. And the reason why it was when I was 8 years old is because that's when I was hired by my dad for the first time. Like we used to have that punch card, right? Where you go punch your time and I'd go work for him for a couple of hours and I'd punch back out and he would run it through payroll and he would, cut me a check and, I didn't get money that day. And he treated me like an employee, even at 8. Now, all I did was I would take a bolt, I'd put a washer on it and then screw a nut on really loose and put it in a bag for our installers, right? And then I became the janitor, right? Which I didn't hate being a janitor. It's kind of a especially back then, it's a gross job, right? Because the bathrooms of my dad's facility were where all the welders were and like all the shop employees, right? And so it's not like, feces type stuff. It's just dirty, right? It's like black soot, that kind of stuff everywhere. And he expected that freaking bathroom to look damn near perfect every time I did it. And I think I picked that job up at like 9, right? So I look back, like I have a 10-year-old, or Nixon's 11. I'm like, crap, I got to get you do a little bit more labor, bro. And he's actually down to do all that stuff. But like, it's, I learned it back then. I just learned that I could earn money, right? And so by the time I got to high school, by the time I was 12, I worked full summers, full days, 10-hour days, right? One summer we were working 12-hour days. I was 16 by then because I remember driving there with my brothers in the car, and which I drug my 2 little brothers along the whole time as well, right? We all worked at a really, really early age. But I don't know. It was probably on my mission a little more of a dream. I mean, I have that book now is $165,000, right? On my mission, you could probably pick one up for like 30, but I mean, 30 was the price of a car, right? I mean, it's kind of followed inflation, really. It's like a ridiculous amount of money. And so, I don't know. It's probably just always been in me that if you just, or my parents at least taught it to me, that if you just have a goal and work really hard at it, you'll eventually be able to buy whatever you want.
So what would you tell somebody that it was starting right now, say they're in their mid-20s, that have been stuck in this little mindset of like, I go to school, I get a job, I hopefully get a job in financial, whatever. Hopefully a bank picks me up and everyone wants to make 6 figures. Everyone wants to make $100,000 a year. What would you say to that person that's like, how would you switch their mindset to get out of that and realize how much is out there?
So I would tell them to begin with the end in mind. That's kind of a thing that's been on my mind recently. You probably heard me say like the men's group and stuff, right? But it's very true. Like you need to go, okay, where do I see myself? And I did this. Where do I see myself at 30, 35, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, right? Like where am I at, right? And there was very specific things inside there that I wanted, like certain cars, certain life, certain houses that I wanted to be in, like that kind of wealth creation. But then as I got older, I pivoted on that because to me, the 2 most important things are freedom and relationships. So instead of me having like a Lamborghini, which I don't fit in, so like dream kind of went to the side. But then I started realizing, I'm like, I actually don't care about having a really flashy car. I want a nice vehicle that like has all the amenities that I wanted, especially nowadays with technology. But what I really want to do is be able to do whatever I want. So if I want to start a company, I can start a company. If I need to fund that company, I have enough money to fund that. If my daughter wants to go to Paris, it's her dream, I can book 2 flights and take her over there. Like that freedom really became important to me. And so then I started looking back at like, okay, so what's my plan? How do I actually get to that point? And from a really early age, so I got back from my Mormon mission at 21, I started investing in stocks within a couple months of me coming home. And it was a couple $100 a month, right? It's funny. It's exactly what I tell people, right? And then as I grew that stock portfolio, I bought a condo when I first got married when I was 23, technically 22. And then, we started like kind of, I made some money on that. We sold it. I bought another townhouse, made some money on that and sold it. Now we're into my house. I mean, there's, equity inside that. And I just started kind of growing those assets. And I realized that if I really want to be able to do whatever I want, I have to have assets. I have to grow these assets and become an investor, which is another kind of theme that I have with people. It's like, guys, you don't really want to be an entrepreneur. You don't really want to be your own boss. Like what you really want to become is the asset manager and / investor of your own things. And that is really where you've grown that wealth, and then you have that freedom to do whatever you want, as if you're a full-time investor of your own money.
Love it. So if somebody, you own a lot of businesses, as Josh Sherwood would say.
Yeah.
And with you owning a lot of businesses, I can imagine a lot of people, and like with your success in business, I can imagine a lot of people come to you for business advice and come to you for business ideas. And you've always had this intuitive sense about business success. What truly differentiates successful businesses from the rest in your mind?
There's a couple things. So let's start with like probably the most important, even though it's probably a broad term. It's like the leadership of the company, right? And the reason why is if you have a strong leader of that company, they know where they're going, right? So they're building all the goals of the company to try and hit that. So, and I call that like building a sellable business, right? Like you want to get over $20 million in revenue. If you can get to $100 million in revenue, then you have like life-changing money when you sell it. Even if you only own 10% of the thing, that's still life-changing money. You know, if you have a $100 million company with, you know, let's just say 30% margin, so you're at $30 million a year coming in, right? And you might get it, let's just say at 10x to keep the numbers easy. They'll buy your company for $300 million, right? And then if you own 10% of that, you get $30 million. You know, anyone in this world can retire off of $30 million. It's just after you pay taxes, you'll have, you know, $21 million. But you know, then you're done. And so that leadership is really, really important. Now, inside that leadership, capital allocation is probably the second most important thing. And capital allocation is when you make money or the money that you have in cash, what do you do with it, right? Are you giving your employees bonuses? Are you giving them more money? Are you buying buildings? Are you expanding? Are you acquiring other companies, right? Are you siphoning all the money out of the business for yourself and then building other assets outside that, or a blend of everything? You know, the graveyard of businesses really begins with bad capital allocation. Too much money in marketing, right? Too much money in expansion, right? You pay some employees more than others, and then you're not getting the value out of them that you need to. And those are a little bit easier problems to fix because you can just get rid of those guys and kind of like start again and kind of fix those things. But if you've decided that you're going to run a Super Bowl ad and your company only does $5 million in revenue, but you had to pay $3 million to get that ad, dude, but you don't have that ROI hit, you bury your business. And so, you know, kind of with us, with the media company that we're starting up for people, like a lot of our pitch to them is actually telling them that by allocating their capital towards us, they're going to get a better ROI and a long-lasting ROI. You know, if you can build a successful YouTube channel or even successful social media channels, right? Like those can pay dividends for a very long time, even though you kind of front end load them with money. So those are really the two things that differentiate between, you know, a business. The other third one is if your business isn't well capitalized. You know, if you well capitalize a business, it's a lot easier to bring sales in, and sales generally fix everything, right? Even if our company doesn't run, if it runs like shit, right? But we have tons and tons of sales coming in, like Microsoft, right? Microsoft makes massive margins, right? They could have 10,000 employees that just sip lattes and, you know, talk to cats, and they're freaking, it doesn't matter, right? Because they make so much money. Yeah. But in a construction company, if half of your employees or a segment of your employees weren't actually contributing to the business, you'd have to cut them out because it would be burning your cash like crazy.
So I think it's interesting. The first thing you said is the leadership, right? So I guess let's go down that a little bit. What in your head, what differentiates a successful leader in a business to a non-successful leader in a business? Like, what are the qualities that you look for personally to invest in something or invest in someone?
Yeah. Good question. The number one thing is overall sales vision, right? Like, where do they want to take this business? You know, that's why second generation businesses actually fizzle hard generally, right? Because the son might have been a really hard worker, might be kind of like his dad, but generally the dad or the mom, right? I mean, there's moms that pass their businesses down. Whatever parent passes that down to the second generation, if they don't teach that kid the vision, where do you want to take this? You know, where are you going to move this to? What do you want the business to be? But then they're just kind of like a managing quarterback where they're just trying not to screw the business up. Well, you're either growing or getting smaller. There's no other way, right? The other side of that is leadership. How strong of a leadership you are is directly proportional to the amount of influence that you have, right? So no one's a leader if you can't influence people to do anything. And really, to me, that's the definition of leadership, is how much can you influence other people to do things. So if you can influence your employees to follow your sales vision, even if you have to pivot it, right, or change it along the way, that is what makes a really good leader, because you get the whole company being like, yeah, we trust this guy, let's run with him. You know, it's really hard to be in a company where your employees think you're, you know, the man, you know, the man's after them, or she's just a rich old white guy, or all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? If you have that stuff going on, you literally have to cut that cancer out of your business and start over again, and actually look yourself in the mirror and be like, why do people think that? Like, why can't I influence these employees to like follow this vision? Yeah.
Cool. So what were, in your opinion, what are the top things that make a good leader? Other than being able to influence, like obviously you have to be able to influence somebody, but what are the things that drive influence to like for a person?
Yeah. Honestly, it's kind of like what we were chatting about this book I'm trying to write. It's likability. Likability is the most important thing in a leader. My 3 pillars of that are you have to be fun to be likable, you have to be competent, and you have to be honest. If you have all 3 of those things, people generally like you. So if you're to be a good leader, you have to be well liked, or at least respected. Sometimes people conflate what liking someone is. I don't mean you think they're dope and you want to be like super good friends with them, right? Like I like that guy kind of thing. It's more like, no, I like my boss. And the reason why I like him is because of these principles inside of our business, and I respect him, Really, that's what being liked is like. It's another word for being respected.
So you said the three pillars?
Yeah, probably those 3 pillars are like the most important thing with being a leader, After that, there's some stature stuff, right? To being a leader, the way you show up, the way you present yourself, the way you handle yourself. In our men's group, we talk a lot about being a leader. You can't be a shithead in your private life generally and be a good leader, And most of the reason why, it's not because of the actions that you're doing, it's because of the mindset that you're in. Like when I go into work, and I'm not perfect, right? Yeah. I hope no one assumes that. But, when I go with my employees really respect me. I'm good to them. I keep my word. I do what I say. I've had some strategies that we've been trying to employ for years, and we've hit every single one of them, right? So they see the company grow. They see wages rise and that kind of stuff. And so as I'm building that trust with them, it makes me a lot easier to be a leader. Right? Because I have a little bit of a track record and they can go, okay, yeah, we can get behind this guy. I don't have to just blindly follow him. He will hit these targets that he's saying to hit. Like in ADP Lemco, my company there, I've told them all that we're going out and merging with other companies. In some businesses, people would freak out about that, right? Well, they're like, well, are you going to sell your portion? Like, yeah, I'm going to sell part of it. And eventually one day I'll not be part of this company, And people are like, oh, okay. And I'm like, it doesn't change the vision. We're still growing this business. This is still a place where you can have a career. You'll always be taken care of in this type of business because this business is going to take care of its employees that produce. So just stay on the production side. And, and even when I went to tell people that I was going to start merging companies, right, I was a little nervous, right? I was like, oh, what if I get 1 or 2 of these? I get a decent amount of employees, right? Yeah. 2 or 3 of these guys are mad or gals are mad and they want to go, they quit because they think they're going to get replaced or, But it's kind of a testament to me of my leadership, right? Is everyone's just like, cool, yeah, great, that'd be dope, yeah, we'll be bigger. Great, off to the next one.
Cool. So like that trust part in your head, that trust comes from building a track record of doing things you say you're going to do.
Absolutely, yeah. That's probably the foundation. The first 2 layers, right? Is just this guy does what he says he's going to do. Right. And even if you're wrong, right, then you go back and pivot and you say, hey guys, what I said I was going to do is actually wrong. I'm going to go this direction. Does everyone kind of agree? And you got to get some more buy-in, right? Because when you pivot hard on something, you just get buy-in from everybody and then they'll stay, that keeps that. That's not really an honest thing, but it's more of it's a little bit of honest, but it's more of, it's in that trust realm where it's like, oh, we had this one vision, we're going real hard. He's going to move it a little bit because now that we have more data, it's got to be, 3 degrees to the right.
Cool. So I guess that just goes back to the point we made earlier, right?
Yeah.
If you're willing to argue with somebody and you see something new open up, you get more information, you're quick to change.
Well, like for example, so we have a really good partner / dealer for us down in the south of Texas, right? He when we first started doing business with him, it was a little bit of a weird relationship. We're kind of going through another third party, and I was kind of like, I don't know this guy, and south of Texas is forever away. It might as well be in Mexico. You know what I mean? Like it's a long way away, and so I had to trust him to go and get these jobs. And, the first couple of years we did a couple $100,000 with him, and now, dude, we're doing $2 million contracts with him almost monthly. And next year is going to go gangbusters. And what had happened was we wanted to expand our business into a little bit more of a general construction world, right? Because we were very niche, and really the main business is very niche inside the athletic equipment world. But with him, we're able to do fields and tracks and big outdoor scoreboards, And kind of by trusting him and him trusting us, we were able to build this relationship and really kind of expand this whole different side of our world. And it's funny because a lot of people in my organization at first were like, well, I don't know about that, blah, blah, blah. People get real skeptical, and it's like, no, guys, trust me, this is going to be great. And now that we've executed that, it's a really good source of income for the company, and they see us growing, and it's actually really easy work for my people. It's just pushing paper. This guy down south arranges everything, makes it all work. It's just, they can just see a win scenario all the way around. And then they just really start trusting that. And it's like, hey, what other market do we want to open? And then they start kind of wanting to do more and more markets and growing, even though that was a technical pivot to like what our sales strategy was before we had that opportunity pull. And so that's what I mean. Because then people can really trust you. Like, oh, okay, Mark, well, when he sees an opportunity, number one, he'll at least investigate it. And then if it's good, he'll grab it. He's not scared to take that opportunity, I don't have a bunch of board meetings where I'm like, what do you guys think? What should we do? Most of the time they say whatever you want,
So playing off of that, it's a lot of, it sounds like, I guess going back to what you said before, you talked about like the things you wanted, like freedom, right? Yeah. Freedom of time and all that. So being the business owner, what's the most important part of building a business that gives you that time? Because I've been in businesses where like the owner or the different people always want to be in the nitty gritty stuff. Mm-hmm. How do you play that balance of like doing actionable items while keeping the vision, while maintaining a good relationship with everybody that works there? And how do you keep that balance to where you still have time with your family?
There's a few things in there. I haven't always had time with my family. In my 20s, I was gone a lot, right? Wasn't absentee, but like I traveled a lot and did a couple of things to kind of build the business. And really was learning to answer your question, right? Nowadays, business terrain, automate as much stuff as you possibly can. Like literally as many things as you can, you automate, right? So you buy better software, you make communication easier. All the little things that like make you inefficient, you just become as absolutely efficient as you possibly can. Then at the same time as you're doing that, you hire really good people. And you go through people, right? They come in, if they're a culture, if they don't fit your culture, you get rid of them, right? Even if they're a good employee, right? You need to make sure that your employees fit the culture and they're awesome employees. Almost every employee I have is like awesome, and they've worked for me for years and years and years and years. I mean, I probably have a 10-year average on how long people stay working for me, if not longer. I don't actually calculate it. I just kind of have it in my head. But yeah, so you plug those really important people in and then you pay them well, Sometimes you pay them market, it's what your company can afford to pay them, right? And you just make sure they're taken care of, that they're happy. Sometimes you buy them cars, sometimes you give them different little perks, Some people have a cell phone with me, some people don't. It's just you just kind of figure out what that person needs and kind of help them along the way. But then you're able to actually step away from the business. And really to stress test your business, you should step away for 2 weeks at a time where you actually don't touch it. And then come back and see what broke. And then you fix that process, then you go for a couple more months, make sure it's working well, then you leave again. And then, and when you leave, you got to leave. Like no emails, no calls, don't check on anybody. Then you come back and see what was broken, you fix it again. And then you get to a position like me where there's certain businesses I'd never touch because they're ran really, really well.
That's awesome. That's freaking cool. Yeah. So I really like that. And so let's play out this scenario where you lost everything. Right? Where you're at now, you lost all your money, lost all your businesses, lost everything. What would you do right now if you were starting over? What would you get into? What would be your first move?
I just go, so I'm a partner to VC fund now, right? So let's just say I got fired from that, right? I would go to a private equity fund and say, based off my reputation and history, this is what I can do for you guys, and this is the compensation package I want. Negotiate that to whatever private equity group picks me up, then I go raise money. But that's a very specific skill that I have, right? If I didn't have that skill, so say I was 24 and had no reputation in the market, I would go sell solar and kick ass at it and earn, because you can earn $500 to $1 million a year doing solar, right? And I would pound those doors and I would make that freaking work. And the reason why I'd pick that is, from my understanding, that is the quickest, easiest way for someone with low skills, right? Not low skills as in they're not a good salesman, but like they're not an engineer, right? They don't have, they're not a programmer. They can't really dive into something. They have no media background, right? Like, I don't want to learn anything. I need to generate cash really, really quickly. And as I'm generating that cash, I'm investing it. And so pound that out for 5 years. If I can say I earn $1 million every year for 5 years, if you pay your taxes and invest most of that money, I'd live like a freaking pauper. And that's how I'd gain my wealth back.
Cool. I mean, that first part, I think there's something in there too, where you said basically you would leverage your skills that you already have. You would comb through all your skills and be like, okay, what can I leverage? What has the most leverage?
Yeah.
I use the word leverage a lot because, I guess the guy that we both big fan of, also uses the word leverage a lot is Alex or Mosey.
Our boy Alex.
Alex.
He doesn't know it yet, but he's basically our third best friend.
Yeah, one day. Look, I even got the hat.
There we go, baby.
He will. One day he will.
Did you just order it?
No, you had to buy. So he just came out with his new book.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He came out with his new book, and if you bought enough books, then you get the hat. So I bought enough books.
Is that offer still on the table?
I think so.
Okay, I'll be doing that.
Go get your books.
I'll be out there at lunch. Yes.
Go get your books.
We are massive fans of Alex Hormozi.
Yeah.
He's probably, dude, there might be 2 business guys I follow on social media, and he's the one.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree, man. Yeah. But he uses the word, and he uses the word leverage a lot, right? Life is about leverage, and I totally get that. So what you're saying, what you said in the beginning was you would comb through your skills, write them all out, and be like, what has the most leverage, and then go to where that leverage, I guess, you'd be able to use that the most.
Yeah.
And then move on from there and figure it out.
It's kind of like, what's that TV show where they drop a billionaire off and give him like $100 or whatever, right? He's got
I don't know, but I'm
days.
Listening.
Yeah. I've only watched a few episodes on a plane, but because it's got to be a tad bit staged, I'm assuming, right? Yeah. But they get like $100 and they go trade it, right? And then they kind of like start buying things and moving things. I think they have to make $1 million in a month. That's kind of the goal. I don't even know if they hit the target or not. I'm sure they hit it a few times, right? Because the show would suck if they never hit it. But yeah, it's kind of that same thing. I mean, they're doing that really, really quickly, right? Because they're kind of on a time clock. But I would be a little more methodical with it. But yeah, absolutely. Leveraging what you're good at. I mean, that's what we do now, right? Yeah.
Cool. I like that a lot. So another thing that most people that I talk to, that one of the biggest things why they love you, Mark, is your ability to show love to Michelle. Big fan of Michelle.
Yeah.
I am. You are too.
Me too.
And how do you, I guess I want to just ask you a little bit about Michelle. Like, what are some of the things that you love about Michelle, and how does she push you to be a better businessman, husband, wife? And why do you think that is so important? And do you think Michelle has played that big of a role in your business life as well?
Yeah. That's a very interesting question I can go a lot of ways with. Because Michelle and I have been recently talking about this. I just recently had her on my podcast, and we've been on 2 or 3 other podcasts together, which we're grateful for. Like we've worked really hard to build our relationship. And when I say really hard, we've been wildly consistent in building our relationship together, and we just get blessings and benefits from it daily. Really, very, very grateful for that relationship. My wife's role in my business life is what it is. And when I say that, if she'll be the first one to tell you that she's like, I don't really influence Mark's business decisions at all, right? And she doesn't. She didn't, it wasn't like I learned how to do business and bounce ideas off of her. Not that I wouldn't, because she's actually really intelligent and she has an accounting background, and I would absolutely value her opinion if she felt like giving it to me. But early on, her and I basically had to find gender roles before it was taboo to do that, right? Like she always wanted to be a mom, right? But for the first 3 years of our marriage, if not, no, it was way longer than that. Sorry. It was before we had second kid, like 6 years of our marriage, she worked. We had dual income coming in, and, and we invested all of our money outside of what we did with our bills, and we're very disciplined in doing that. But then when it was time, she actually got let go of her job because it got acquired. And it was time for her not to find another job, here to stay home with our kids and kind of raise them. But she has helped create such a stable home environment for me. and she takes care of the stuff that she's agreed to take care of. Not that we don't have flow over, you know what I mean? Like I'll help her do the dishes, but she generally makes sure the house is clean. So it's eliminated that stress from my life. I've never had a wife that was like, made me feel insecure. She's always been very fit. And so she's helped me do that. She's encouraged me. She makes healthy food at our home. She's like an amazing homemaker, really. And so, which allows me to go out and slay dragons, whatever you want to cliche call that. Right. Yeah. But I go out, I do business deals. I keep her very informed on where our money's at least in the general scheme of things. She knows every business account or anything, but she understands the things that I'm getting into. And she just makes sure, she takes care of my needs, right? I need affection at home and I need time with her. I need intelligent conversations with her. I need my kids to behave kindly so that when I'm around them, I like being around them. She really picks this. She doesn't pick the slack up. She does that. She creates those environments for me, and she makes my life really, really easy. You've been to my house multiple times. My kids are kind, they're nice, they're engaging, and not that they don't punch each other and do stupid shit that we gotta fix, right? Yeah. But a lot of our home, it's really, she's the CEO of the home, and I do my best, other than buying art that she hates, to make sure that I support her in every single aspect of that.
Cool. Love it. Shout out Michelle.
Yeah, there you go, baby.
Here's a question for you. So a lot of people my age, or just like the younger guys that are coming up, there's a huge influx of people that want to be business owners and want to be the man, you could say, right? In your head, how important is it? What are some of the most important things that these people can do to actually ensure success, right? What differentiates the guy that won't make, the kid that won't make it, and the kid that will?
That you utilize your 20s the way that they should be utilized. It's kind of like when we were in the office the other day and I was breaking down your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. When you're in your 20s, right, you should get your education over with as quick as you possibly can, right? I even lean heavy enough to not even go to college, right? Depending on if you want to be a doctor and engineer, obviously you got to go to college, right? So you can pass your exams and get your licenses. Outside of that, I think college is almost worthless. And so, in your 20s, though, is the time for you to learn, right? So if you want to do private equity one day because you find that as a sexy industry and there's a ton of money into it, go intern there. As you intern there, build value. As soon as you build value, they'll start paying you, right? And then you start learning that industry. And if you do that for 6 months and you're like, I don't want to do this, I hate this, then quit and go find the next thing that you want to do. But through your 20s, learn enough. You need to learn 3 to 5 really good skills, right? Being able to value a business, being able to lead a team, being able to come up with a sales strategy and execute it, that type of skills, right? And even maybe computer programming or app programming or understanding the data that comes off of social media, right? That is actually wildly important. How many people do we meet that have no idea how to manipulate their own data? And it's free. This is data that, it's not like they're paying for it, but if you can't manipulate the data and understand the data, you can't do anything with it. But as you do that, you build value in your 20s, right? And I think kids nowadays think they want to be a boss so they can drive a Porsche and they can have write-offs and they can play in this world, right? And you can do all that stuff if you accelerate really quickly, but that's how fast you close that learning curve. But yeah, 20s are to learn, 30s are to build, 40s are to gain wealth, 50s gain wealth, 50s you're pretty much semi-retired because you should be your own investor of your own stuff by then. By the time you hit your 60s, life should be real easy.
Love it. And so in your head, how important is it for somebody to find a mentor?
Wildly important. I haven't really done the mentor path per se, right? Yeah. Which is funny for me, which is also why I mentor so many freaking people, because I feel like it's something I can really do to give back and help people, Like in our business, right? You and Nick could absolutely do this business by yourself, right? But the reason why my value in this company, which is why I'm a minority owner in this thing, is to help you guys close that 2 or 3 year gap at the start of businesses where guys spend money on stupid things, or they don't get coverage with the insurance that they need to, or they're pissing their clients off left and right, and they're not contracting properly. Like there's all these little like things that like someone who's been in a business for 20 years just understands. It's like, no guys, these are the pillars of a good business. We're going to implement those and go. And then you guys can bring the youth and the excitement and the growth can kind of come inside that system. And then you don't have these years where you're like, shit, we're in year 3, we got to raise money.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going to be like, yeah, year 3 was our most profitable one, then year 4 was our most profitable one, then year 5 was our most profitable one. You just kind of keep that process chomping out.
Cool. And so, but say you're in your mid 40s and are still looking for something. What advice would you give somebody who still hasn't really found their thing? They're in their mid 40s. They just don't know what to do at that point.
Well, when you say they haven't found their thing, what do you mean?
I mean, they haven't found like a lot of success. They've worked a 9 to 5 their whole life. Now they're realizing like, okay, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of being in the system. They realize that the whole system is meant to keep you there and to keep you working for somebody else that does all that. Like, what would you, and they once they realize this and they come to you like, Mark, I don't know what to do. What would you say?
So that has happened to me a few times.
I can imagine.
And they're very specific to the person. Normally the problem with someone in their 40s, if they're in a job that they do not like, right? They have a massive debt load. So they're almost married to each other, right? It's one of those things where they bought a house and then they wanted to go on a vacation when they're 30 because they deserve it. So then they took a second out on their house to like go on this vacation, or like they had a bunch of kids and so then they want to expand the house, you know what I mean? And there normally is this unhealthy relationship with money, because money is a tool, right? And you want to put your money to work. So when you take your tool and put it to work, you get more money coming back from that, and you start kind of growing these processes and you start growing your wealth. And people do get stuck into like the spending cycles, right? Where they get a raise and they've been getting raises, and, you know, they might, in their 40s, they might be making 120, 130K, but they live like they're making like 300K. And so their debt just kind of keeps falling and it's outpacing them. And then they start getting mad at their job because they're like, oh, this sucks. You know, I have to go to this job every day, or I can't pay my bills. And it's more of a money management issue, right? So when I talk to those people, I generally go, okay, we look at your skills and look at your debt, and then we go, okay, we got to start eliminating your debt. So instead of you growing assets and wealth, like the good path, you're going to have to do both. You're going to have to grow your assets and pay off your debt at the same time, and you're going to have to move back and forth in that clip to see which one of those is more important. For example, I'm not a full Dave Ramsey guy, right? But if you have credit card debt, like, you have got to get rid of that. It's 24% interest. You know, if you miss payments, you're up to like, I don't even know anymore, 60% interest, right? You're just getting destroyed by interest. Yeah. So you've got to take care of your credit card debt off the bat. But if you have a 20-year long student loan, right? That's when you start kind of going back and forth, where it's like, okay, I've got $1,000. I'll put $500 towards investing and $500 to pay this debt off, right? Because you're just, you know, kind of closing that gap. But you have to, most of those guys have to increase how much money they make. So they're going to have to change professions, go into mostly into a sales job where they have an unlimited ceiling, right? So stockbroker, solar cells, software cells, insurance, you know, something like that, where they could actually, instead of only making 120 or 130K a year, sometimes even 70 or 80, right? They're going to get to the point where they can make 400 to 500,000, because then it's just like a business. You just have enough income to come in to like take care of the debt that you need and start growing your assets and start kind of moving those things around and doing exactly what I said earlier, just turning yourself into an investor.
Amen.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's simple. It's not easy, but yeah.
It's simple. It's not easy. A lot of things we talk about are simple and not easy.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, something you brought up, which is funny, we're kind of shifting topics here, but like, we recently went to Lake Powell, like I said, Roman Candle Wars, but we also we do mini masterminds, right? And the mini masterminds consist of we get little groups and we get in a circle and we talk about everybody's biggest problem that they're facing right then. Yeah. And a lot of them are self-love issues. A lot of them are imposter syndrome issues and a lot of that. And there are a couple times where you talked about just loving yourself, just do it. Like I guess I want to come back to that because it's like, if somebody is struggling with their self-love, we talked about it, and what was your advice, if you don't mind sharing that?
So my advice at the time, and I've had a little bit of a pivot.
Yeah,
right.
Love it.
Because this has come up, right? Because I didn't yell at everyone, but I had a passionate response where I basically just said, guys, we're in this program for 15, 16 months. Like, when are you going to learn that loving yourself is a choice? You have to choose every minute of every day to love yourself, right? Look yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, I'm grateful for this, Doesn't mean you don't see things you want to improve, right? Like me currently, right? I'm on a weight loss journey and I'm finally like really barreled in. So today I'm down 30 pounds. I got another 30 pounds to lose, right?
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And even though I'm really disciplined and good in a bunch of different areas of my life, like this is one of those areas that I need to get control of, right? I'm 41. I got to become very, very fit so that I can live the rest of my life a long time, see my grandkids and, really kind of dive into that. But as I've had this conversation with people about what I said down there, I actually showed everybody that I have a dark journal that I've been keeping on my phone, right? It's like, it's all the bad thoughts I have about myself because people see me and I really do love myself, right? They see me and they go, like one of the guys in our group just like 2 days ago said to me, he's like, I don't think anything bad has ever happened to you or even happened to you now. And I'm like, bro, I'm like not a king in a castle. I'm not an ivory tower. Like stuff happens. I do dumb things. I say dumb things. I get in trouble with people, being my authentic self, it will offend a few people. So that kind of happens, right? So I was bringing that up to one of our buddies, Josh Sherwood, right? And he goes, you know the best way to love yourself is stop doing stupid shit. And I was like, yeah. I mean, and honestly, right? Like if you're cheating on your wife, it's really hard to look in the mirror unless you're a wild narcissist and love yourself because you're doing something stupid, even down to like, if you're yelling at your kids all the time, or like you've got a bunch of relationships that you just are too lazy to go cultivate or you're too lazy to go fix, but they still weigh on you. That is stupid, right? Like you need to look at your life and eliminate the things that you do that are dumb or not wise or stupid, however you want to look at it. And I think if, you and I we both have great relationships with our wives, right? Like that gives us a lot of freedom to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, you know what? I do. I treat her really well. I'm very kind to her. I want to be kind to her. She loves me. There's signs that this is working. You know what I mean? Yeah. Those are things that are very easy to like hold on to as a tenant and just say, yeah, those are the reasons I love myself. Like I've got 3 kids who adore me up to now. Right. And I don't think that's actually going to change because I treat them really well. I'm very honest with them. And I'm real. And I spend time with them as much as I can, especially now that I'm a little more affluent. I can do whatever I want. So if one of them needs me at 2:00 in the afternoon, I can stop working and go hang out with them, or I take them on business trips. Like there's a lot of things in my life that I do not make stupid mistakes. I don't do drugs. I don't drink to excess. Most of the relationships that I have in my life, I've cultivated. They're really good relationships. So when I look in the mirror after I meditate in the morning, I say, hey, Mark, you know what I mean? Like, let's go get them today. Let's go get done what we need to. Let's live our lives. Let's enjoy our lives. Like, it's just me and you. We're the only ones going to make this happen. And then that's kind of the attitude I take out into the world each day.
It's not easy, but it is simple.
It is, I mean, and then the guys that are like, let's just say you're cheating on your wife, right? Semi-taboo subject, right? And you look at yourself and you're like, I hate myself. I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I'm hurting her. She's going to eventually find out this is going to be bad, right? And in our group, we call it coming into integrity. So when you go and have that, you admit that, right? And you deal with the consequences and you cut the behavior off. As that healing happens, then you can actually look yourself in the mirror and be like, all right, I did it. At least I admitted to it. At least I'm trying to make this right. And you're going to start feeling better about yourself. And so, yeah, you have to choose to do that. You really do have to just choose that you're worth it.
I guess that comes back, we circle back to the fact that it's like, you do stuff that you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right? That honesty and truth part that we talked about in the beginning where it's like, you have to be true to yourself. We call that being in integrity, but doing that builds confidence and doing that builds your likability.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing too, like, and if you're just absolutely lost, I'm just talking, male and female, right? This works for both of them.
Yeah.
But I'll speak specifically to males because we're kind of a hated class these days in society. Right. If you just don't know how to love yourself or make yourself feel better or blah, 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 just go to the gym and lift weights and change your body. Just get really healthy. At bare minimum, it's something that you can check off the list every day. You can go get sweaty. You can go meet some friends there. You can get some edification from some of your friends. Be like, hey, man, look at you. You're doing well. You lose 10 or 15 pounds, people will start noticing. That is a confidence boost. Even if you're wildly overweight, you can then look in the mirror and be like, okay, at least I did something, you know? So that would probably be my best advice, is just a good first step. And same with women, right? Like if you're unhappy with your body, it's hard to actually look in that mirror and go, oh, I'm so good in so many ways, but I don't look good, you know? Start looking better, you know? And I'm not saying you need to be perfect, because that's an unobtainable goal. But like, change your body, get healthy, feel better, eat better food. Like right off the bat, that's probably the best way just to get that first step going. And then from there, it's a lot of, you know, not affirmations and just saying dumb stuff into the mirror, right? But actually being like, okay, I am a good person because I want to be a good dad. And yesterday I was a good dad. I talked to each one of my kids individually for 15 minutes. They gave me a kiss before they went to bed. I chose yesterday to do things that make me feel like I'm a good dad. And then you just kind of replicate that over and over again. So if you want to be better at business, then start doing things in business that make you have success. And then when you look yourself in the mirror, you can be like, hey, I did close the sales goals that I wanted to, and I did make my boss proud, and I did help a coworker at work become better, and now they're helping me be better and making me more efficient. Like all those things are stacking up, and that's how you become a confident, happy person and someone who loves himself.
Cool. Dude, I think I love that because I'm a big believer in you are what you have evidence for, right? Which is my beef with the whole mindset of like changing. I think it's in Atomic Habits or something like that, where it's like you have to tell yourself that you are a healthy person, so you run. And my personal belief is it's like if you're not healthy, it's better to be honest with yourself. Be like, I am fat.
Yeah.
I need to run. Because if you come up to me and you're like, I am a very healthy person, I'll be like, you are what you have evidence for, and I hate to be that guy. I chose a very sensitive subject, but then I could have started a different one. But like,
yeah,
I'm a big believer in that, right? So, because I believe it builds confidence. I think it builds this idea of if you do check it once, you go to the gym once, you're like, I was a healthier person today.
Yep.
I have proof that I did this. Done. All these people, because you hear all these marketing gurus and these sales gurus, all these people that are gurus and people that leaders in their fields and whatnot, and they'll spout a whole bunch of nonsense, and then you look at their everything and you look at who they are as a person, and you're like, you are not that. I hate to be that guy. There's nothing quicker to lose your reputation in my eyes than to tell me something like, I am X, and then you prove me otherwise through your actions.
Yeah.
And so I really do love that.
Well, that's the social media thing too, right? Like it's so funny. These guys are like, I'm a brand builder. I'm an influencer, you know, all this kind of stuff, right? And they have 400,000 followers, right? 17 people like their posts. It's like, dude, you bought all those people. And by the way, how are you going to come back from this? Because you've put it out there to the universe that you're this bigger than life thing, and you can't even get 10 people to buy tickets to hear you speak. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not what you say you were. And that brings me back to a point that I've been trying to hit on the head with a lot of people, especially in our men's group. One of the biggest lies that is told to people is fake it till you make it. That is a lie. You never fake it till you make it. You're humble till you make it. So if I hire you and you don't know what you're doing, don't fake it. Because then I realize, man, this guy's an idiot or he's a liar. Right? I would much rather have someone come in and be humble, be like, hey, I will work so hard for you and I will learn what you need me to learn and I will be coachable and teachable. That's the attitude in an early stage employee, right? In their 20s, right? Where it's like, okay, cool. And then you actually turn your boss into a mentor, right? Because then they're gonna be like, okay, I got this dude that's hot to go, doesn't know a damn thing, so I got to teach him, right? But I'm willing to do that because I trust him enough to go and attack what I want him to attack. So then that changes the dynamic between you and the employer, right? Instead of like, you know, like you see these funny TV shows from back in the day where you have actors, right? And they're like, oh, I speak French. Then they get into a French movie and they're like, oui, oui, boo, boo. You know, it's just like they don't know what the freak they're saying. Well, then they're fired. Then their reputation's tarnished. Like you cannot fake it till you make it. You just be humble till you make it, in my opinion.
Love it.
Yeah.
Amen. You are what you have evidence for.
Yeah, no, exactly. I love that term, because it's true, right? Sometimes you just can't break the truth.
As much as you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it, dude. Well, dude, I don't know where we're at on time, but I love it.
We got like 10 minutes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Even better. 10 minutes. There are a couple more things I want to dive into then, if we have time. One of them being your relationship with your kids. From an outside perspective, I love the relationship that you have with your kids, and it's built on a lot of respect. Like, I can tell that you have respect for your kids.
Yeah. And
what do you think builds that, and why do you have that much respect for your kids, and how did you build that?
So we have a couple of rules in our family. Our number one rule in our family is we're always honest, right? Now, as I've told that to my children, right, being perfectly honest is an impossible bar to hit. So I've told them, I say, guys, listen, I know you're going to lie to me. You're going to learn and you're going to get beat, not beat, but like, I've never hit my kids, but like, you're going to take a verbal beat down every time you lie, right? I'm also very cognizant that I do not overreact to anything in their world except for a lie. And then it's overreaction city, right? Because that creates a peaceful, safe environment for them to like kind of maneuver. Even when they get mad at each other, I kind of let my kids swear a little bit. Then every now and again, I cut it off because they're swearing too much. I'm like, hey, bro, like my little son, you're sounding stupid. You're using too many swear words. And be like, oh, okay, dad, and it's like, it's more of like a mentor relationship, right? But when my kids lie, dude, it's like all hell breaks loose. Not that I'm screaming, right? But it's like, okay, get in here. That's, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like all over them. Very stern voices, very like, they realize that they're in a very serious situation now. And a lot of the time I go, okay, you tell me the absolute truth right now, because if you don't, this is going to get real bad. And generally they end up telling me the truth. And then when they do, you got to be so neutral, right? You're like, okay, thank you for telling me the truth. Let's deal with this now. Yes, you're going to be punished for this, but X, Y, Z, let's fix this and don't do that again. And honestly, I think I've probably only caught my kids lying, maybe each of them, maybe once or twice, because I did have such a very stern reaction to them doing that. It creates an environment where, there's a lot of forgiveness, it's not that I'm not going to like hold it against them forever. There's forgiveness inside of our relationship. But I also explained to them, it's like, listen, guys, if you're 16 and you're drinking and you're not supposed to be drinking, you call me and I come and get you, right? And I bring you back to being safe. You don't exacerbate the situation by jumping in a car with another drunk teenager and then getting in a car accident and then not telling me and then getting arrested. And then like this can go off the freaking rails. And so I paint those pictures with my kids very, very clearly, especially with drugs and alcohol, right? Where I'm like, don't you ever do drugs. Like you are going to a ranch up in Washington, which I literally have my friend set up ready to do this. It's a big ass dairy, right? I'm like, you ever do that? Or are you going to go live with me in a cabin for 3 months where you're chopping wood all day? And I'm going to make your life a living hell if you ever do drugs, And that's because I view drugs as just such a destructive chemical you put in your body at such a young age, right? I don't think anyone should ever try drugs or alcohol. Weed, I don't give a crap until you're like 25. Your brain really has to develop all the way, and then you're good to go, right? Then you could actually dabble in a few things, But, obviously not heroin and crack cocaine and all that stuff is just going to wreck your lives. Yeah. But I think I just made those objectives wildly clear to my kids. I also don't let them fight with each other. And so they do, right? But then I break it up and I try and figure it out. We kind of reduce it down to the actual problem. They talk about it. They have to forgive each other. Sometimes they don't. Like I had my son one time, he didn't want to forgive his sister, so I made him go sit on the tramp. And then I just sat up there at the top of the, in my kitchen, I just eating ice cream. I'm like, hey, as soon as you're ready to say sorry, you can come over and have some ice cream. And he's like yelling at me, and I'm just like, the thing with my kids, what people you should find really funny is they have the two most stubborn parents in the world, right? Like I will go to the ends of the earth if I want to, right? And so, there's all these little, this is my personality, right? I guess it's Michelle and my personality. It's just kind of how we've kind of fostered this whole relationship. But, and then I just let them talk to me about anything, like literally anything, Like Brea, she's going through puberty right now. And so she's, getting her breasts and all that stuff, which she hates. And I just, I took her shopping the other day and I was like, hey, this dress, this is one of those things that make your body look a little more form-fitting. She's like, oh, Dad. And I'm just like, hey, do you want me to talk about this stuff with you or not? She's like, No, I do, And it's like, yeah, we just keep those lines completely open. And my overall goal is to, by the time they're in their early 20s, mid 20s, that they are a fully functioning member of society. And then we just become friends. I'm never punishing them. I'm never, I'm just there to help them. I'm a mentor. I'm a friend. I want them to call me to hang out with me. I want to experience life with them. And that's another part of what we do now is we take them on trips. We take them all over the country. They're homeschooled. They're really with us a lot, which makes them able to talk to adults a lot better, and I don't let them do anything that I don't like, which is a Jordan Peterson principle, right? Like you don't let your kids do things that other people find annoying or that annoy you just because they're kids. And that way they're not going to carry those habits on into their adulthood and be looking around being like, I don't understand why no one likes me. Well, it's like, it's because your freaking parents let you do dumb shit your whole freaking life and be annoying, and they just banish you to another room when the adults were around. You never learned how to interact with adults. So that's probably 80% of what we do as parents in my home.
Yeah. Do you have any, do your kids know what they want to do when they grow up?
They'll say things, but no. Harper told me she wants to be a vet the other day. Brea wants to be Brea wants to be a movie producer, and she's very keen on that, actually. So she's very excited about YouTube, and she makes videos almost daily. You know what I mean? If not daily, at least every 3 days I get a new video sent to me. And it's her and her brother and sister, just they're the actors. When the cousins come over, it's a full production, battle scenes and just whatever, right? I just let her be as creative as possible. It's really fun. Nixon, I don't know what he would say right now. I don't know if he'd say NFL player because he's loving football, or if, sometimes he says he wants to come work with me, which they're all going to end up working with me. At some level, but it's not like I have a family business that I'm going to pass down to them. My philosophy, we build businesses to sell them. So they'll have some wealth passed down to them, but I'm hoping by the time they're 25, they're into whatever they want to do. And I might be funding some of it, but they'll be controlling it. Similar to what we're doing with you, actually. I just want to come in and support and help build and let you run the whole thing because it's your company.
Yeah, love it. Are you planning on giving when you die? How much are you giving to your kids?
The way it's set up right now, so I have a trust, so it, right now they're all underage, right? So they will all go to, I think it's my brother. I can't remember what we said on there. I'm pretty sure it's one of my brothers, but, so the brother will get a stipend every month for them. I think it's $3,000 a month, right? To take care of them. They can do special draws, but each kid at 21 gets $500,000. Or maybe it's 250,000, and then at 28 they get $1 million, and then at 35 they get the balance of their portion.
Love it.
Which would be big.
What do you feel? How do you feel about the people that are I am giving my kids nothing?
Stupid.
Why?
Because it's a horrible mindset. It's like this. It's like they read a book and they say, well, if I give my kids a bunch of money, it will spoil them. And it's like, how many years did you have to teach them not to be spoiled? It's like you're kind of shucking the responsibility off. It's like right now, I'm 41. If my parents both die, there's a decent amount of wealth that comes my way. Won't make a difference. It'll just go into the asset classes that I currently have. It's not like I'm going to buy a Lamborghini the next day. I'm not going to take my kids on vacation the next day with that money. It just goes into the family asset and trust kind of thing, or at least my assets and trust. There's a couple kids, my kids have to take drug tests, with this to get the money and stuff like that. And there's a little bit of leeway for the attorney to bar them from taking the money, if they're in a bad spot in life. It's basically if they can't, if that money's going to come to their detriment. But you can only control so much from the grave anyways, right? I also believe once I'm gone, I'm gone. Whether I go to heaven or I'm dirt, right? What does it matter? I want them to live happy lives. I worked really hard, especially in their early years, to build the things that I built, and I'm going to experience my life to the max. And if I can enhance their lives down the road, especially after I've taught them to be good people and good members of society and be good with money, it's only going to make their lives better. So to answer your question, I just feel that attitude of not leaving your kids anything and donate it all to a charity or blah, 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 blah. I just think it's short-sighted.
Amen, dude. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I never understood it either. I feel the same way.
Yeah. Most of the time, it's the parents think their kids are idiots. So, which is kind of like the final slap in the face, right? You die. Here, you guys all get $1. I've donated this to the freaking Dolphins, and be like, number one, if that happened to me, I'd sue the freaking trust. You know,
Oh, that's good.
Oh my God. Of course, also those are the things that are hilarious, right? I mean, if you got some, I mean, you know, I mean, there's trust fund kids, right? That like, they're not good members of society, you know, and if the parents knew it and they, you know, they died in their 80s, right? And their kids are in their 40s and they're like, yeah, this money's going to get sniffed up a nostril. And okay. I mean, fair enough. Don't exacerbate the situation, but if your kids are good kids, take care of them. You know, each one of my kids, I'm hoping to buy a fourplex when they turn 18 for them, with them, right? I'll be on the mortgage, of course. Yeah. They'll be on the mortgage. I'm going to let them property manage it. And I hope those people bury them in the ground, right? Just kick their ass. I hope they're changing light bulbs at 2:00 in the morning. So they learn how bad real estate sucks, right? But then I also want them to learn how it works, right? The value of equity and 1031 exchanges and capital gains, long-term, short-term, like all the different things that come with that, right? Paying me. Right, I'm going to get them into this thing. So when we sell this thing or the cash comes in, I'm going to take the majority of it. And I'd be like, if you want to take the majority of it, then you earn the money and go and invest it. But this is still class, you know. I'm not going to do it underage because it doesn't make any sense. But when they turn 18, you know, so by the time they're 22, 23, they might have grown the real estate portfolio a tad, you know, or they might have done this. They'd be like, Dad, I would love for them to come to me after a year and be like, dude, this sucks. Like, I know, you want to sell this thing? We'll go buy a business or something. Be like, yes, please. You know, great. You've learned your lesson. That's kind of my idea. So all my kids right now actually have a stock portfolio, and I pay them monthly, and then it's going to offset my taxes a tad and to help them grow this assets. Yeah. So when my kids start working, they're not going to look at their cash that they make off of their jobs. They're not going to look at that as like, oh, this is awesome. I make $100,000 a year. They're going to look at their net worth every year and go, okay, I increased my net worth by 200 grand or 50 grand or 30 grand. That's how I view life. I don't actually look at how much cash comes in. I look at how much my net worth grows every single year. And I actually look at it per quarter. And then that way you can look and see what assets are performing well, what assets aren't. And then you get in that investor mindset where you're like, oh, I've got to maintain these assets more than I've got to like have a high paying job. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's part of it, obviously, but like, that's my investor mentality.
Yeah, dude, I guess real quick, I know how you feel about real estate. You did just say real estate sucks. So as quick as possible, explain to me why you hate real estate.
Because if you have a 6 cap, which is it's your return, right? Your cash return every year, and a 4% appreciation, it's a 10% return every year, right? So if you put $100,000 into a home in 10 years, it'll be worth about $200,000, right? Some of that will be cash you've taken out. Then the appreciation will be, 4% would be 40, right? So it'd be like $140,000 or $40,000 appreciation, $60,000 coming to you outside of paying taxes and all that kind of junk, right? If you were to invest into a business, we put $100,000 into our business. How fast can you multiply that?
Pretty quick.
Way quick. Ours probably under a year. You might be able to 3x that in a year, right? Because we can go to work every day and we can get new clients and we can get new products and we can, charge more and we can get, increase the margins and we can just keep on adding sales and sales and sales and sales and sales. So when you take $100,000 and invest it into a company, in 3 years, you could easily 10x it, especially if it's something in inception, right? So then you go from $100,000 to $1 million worth of value. Right? Then if you're at $1 million worth of value and you're kicking off 30% cash to yourself, because that's a good healthy margin, right? That's $300,000 a year. So then you look at that 10-year mark where you've made all this real estate money, right? You're millions and millions of dollars better than that real estate deal. And you're not changing light bulbs and dealing with people blowing your house up and dealing with insurance claims and there's all sorts of nightmares that come with it. I mean, I own real estate, right? Yeah. I have commercial and I have residential places, and they're not that big of a pain in the ass for me because I have property managers, but then they also take a chunk of the money that comes in. So just when you look at that ROI over a 10-year horizon, and real estate, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can get into it. It's the most predictable investment that you can do. I mean, literally any bank will loan you money on real estate. Even hard money companies, right, that do high risk stuff, they want everything collateralized with real estate. And that's because you can't really affect real estate. You know, it's not going to go down 30% in a day and go up 40% the next day. There's nothing you can do. I mean, even if you expand into these buildings, right? I mean, you're really doing dollar for dollar. So if you put $100,000 more into a building, it's only worth $100,000 more. So to actually really increase that ROI, you basically have to hold on to real estate for like 20 years. And then all of a sudden they become cash flowing machines. That's really what real estate's all about. And I encourage people to own real estate. Like, I think it's good to have some real estate, to have some stocks, and then to either build a business or start investing in private equity. So, or venture capital, either one of those.
Yeah. So in short, you can either wait a very long time and make a little bit of money, or you could take that same money, invest it into a business, or do different investing strategies to get that money that you would have made over a long period of time in a very short amount of period of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then keep on flipping it, right? So if we build a business, say we built a business and we sold it every 5 years, right? I mean, you will crush real estate. Absolutely crush real estate. But you got to be smart.
As I say, you have to be able to do that.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of people have the skills to build businesses, right? But they don't have the lifestyle to build businesses, right? There's two things that people really screw themselves, right, early on in their lives. Really, there's three. The first one is who you marry. If you marry someone who you eventually divorce, that is going to financially jack you, right? So 60% of divorces, or 60% of marriages end in divorce. So 60% of our population screw the first one up. Number two is having kids too early and having too many kids. Talk about a taboo subject, right? Very rarely will you get someone to admit they had too many kids, right? Because they love their kids. It'd be a little harsh to say, yeah, I got 7 kids. The last 2, I probably shouldn't have done that. And the reason why the kid thing is an issue, because it just takes time, right? Like, I feel the responsibility as a parent that I am to spend X amount of time with each one of my kids, and that is an unknown number every day, right? One day my daughter might need me, the next day she might not, right? So if I don't have the ability or the time to like actually be like, hey, I want to spend time with you, I want to spend time with you. Like if I'm a person who's working 2 jobs to make my family enough money that we can live, that is a life situation that is wildly hard to get out of, right? Because you have some sort of a debt load, right? The third thing is taking too much debt from college. So, and that is a more recent problem, right? In the last probably 20 years, right? Where like you can just take these unlimited amount of debt against a degree that's worth garbage, you know, philosophy degrees, liberal arts degrees, quite frankly, most business degrees are garbage. So accounting degrees are probably really good, financial degrees, but like general business, like go build one.
Yeah.
So
I guess summarize those 3.
Yeah, to summarize those 3, there's 3 things you can do to like really hurt yourself. Marry the wrong woman or man, right? Have kids too early and too many, and to take on way too much debt through college. Those are the 3 things that like, especially if you hit that trifecta, right? You hit that trifecta,
Screwed.
and it's like, good luck. You know what I mean? Make sure you pay into Social Security. That's what's going to get you through the rest of your life. And by the way, when I say that, I'm not saying that you can't have a good life, right? I mean, you're going to go get your 9 to 5 because you got to pay your bills. You got the kids. You know, once the kids are out, you might get a little bit of bump because you might be able to talk your wife into going back to work, right? But then if you're like, well, no, we're going to buckle down and sacrifice, right? So you send the wife to work, then you either got the kids going to daycare, right? They're either going to go to daycare or you're just not going to be around them as much, right? Then you got kids that are around their parents, they're not being influenced by their parents. And then the kids kind of go off the hinges, right? And then by the time they're teenagers, if you're dealing with like underage drinking and all this bullshit because they're rebelling against you, right? Like you just have these massive, crazy problems instead of like, kind of like me, you have a home that's very peaceful and solid and taken care of. And so I can go out and take some risks. You know, I could tell Michelle like, hey, Joe and I have started this company. I've got all my other responsibilities. Every night from 7 to midnight, I have to work in this media company. Yeah. To build what I need to do. Not that that's not what I have to do currently, but if I had to, I could do it. And she, because she trusts me, will go, okay, I trust you. Like, I promise it'll be for 4 months. And then if it works, great. If not, I'm out of it, you know? And yeah, I can have those conversations with my wife. You can't do that if you're with a chick that wants to divorce you because she doesn't trust you, doesn't respect you, right? Then you got all these kids, and you got your wife nagging you like, oh, you never see the kids, blah, 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 you know? And then if you have crushing debt you have to pay every month, mortgage, car, school payment, credit card debt because, you know, you went for 5 months without going out to dinner, then you went and blew $1,000 because you deserve it. Like, it's just these behaviors and these habits from people, and they just wreck you. So, yeah, once again, man, who you marry, wildly important. When you have kids and how many, and how much debt you take on. Boof.
I don't know what else to even say about that, dude. I love it. I love it, dude. Well, I love this. Thanks a ton. I know people are gonna go bananas about this. People are
because you help it.
Get into the mind of Mark.
Yeah.
So thanks, man. And if this does well, if people like this stuff, I guess let you know. Let's just keep doing. Let's keep this rolling. Let's get some more people who have questions, and basically we'll run it up to where we'll take people's questions, and we'll just sit down with the mind of Mark and start cranking these out as well.
Yeah, I love it. Let's keep it going.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.